Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Pranamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshcharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this morning we're reading Canto 10, Chapter 85, verse number 6. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pranadina Vishvasrijam Shaktayo ya parasyata Paratantrya dvaisha drishyat Dvayoshteshtaiva cheshtatam. Translation and purport by servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Whatever potencies the life air and other elements of universal creation exhibit are actually all personal energies of the Supreme Lord. For both life and matter are subordinate to Him and dependent on Him, and also different from one another. Thus, everything active in the material world is set into motion by the Supreme Lord. Purport. Prana is the vital air of life, a more subtle element than the ordinary air we can touch. And because prana is so subtle, finer than the tangible manifestation of creation, it is sometimes considered the ultimate source of everything. But even subtle energies such as prana depend for their functional capacity on the supremely subtle Paramatma. That is the idea Vasudeva expresses here by the word paratantriyat, because of dependence. Just as the velocity of an arrow is derived from the strength of the bowman who shoots it, so all subordinate energies depend on the power of the Supreme Lord. Furthermore, even when various subtle causes have been empowered with their capacity to act, they cannot act in concert without the Supersoul's coordinating direction. As Lord Brahma states in his description of creation in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Yadaite sangata bhava bhutendriya manoguna Yada yatana nirmane nashekur brahma vittama Tada samhatya chanyoyam bhagavat shakti chodita sadasatvam upadaya chobhayam sasrujurhyada. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot manifest as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. Thus, when all these become assembled by the force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and secondary causes of creation. Purport ends here. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnana-Jana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. I offer my humble obeisances on the lotus feet of my spiritual master. He's opened my darkened eyes with torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I further offer my obeisances to all of you assembled Vaishnavas and seek your kind permission that I may recite Srimad Bhagavatam in your presence today. So I'm going to share portion of the screen here. Let's see how this works. Hopefully this works. Okay. So this verse is spoken by Vasudeva, Krishna's father, to Sri Krishna. And he's recognizing the Lord's all-pervading control over creation. This is where Vasudeva and Devaki have regained the memory of their divine son. And Vasudeva is offering prayers to express his deep realizations. And just looking at the content of this particular verse, we see how Vasudeva has such a technical and deep understanding of the energies of the Lord. And he's giving a very refined understanding for those of us who will read his prayer later on, who will hear it, how much the Lord is in charge. You know, everyone knows God is great. How great is God is very hard. But some of these beautiful prayers are pointers for us to maybe gradually start to understand how great God is. So here, Vasudeva, in the verse, he's glorifying the Supreme Lord as the source of all creative potencies. So he's a supreme activator. Now, although prana and matter appear to be sources of movement and action in this universe, they're actually completely dependent on the Lord. So prana is this, what they call life airs. The airs, I mean, even the word airs is very hard to understand because we think of airs as something that can be measured and put in a balloon and things like that. Prana is something a little more, quite more subtle that cannot be measured, but yet that aspect is what moves things. So even though they're subtle, some of the elements, they appear to be moving things, but their power to act is borrowed. It's not inherent. That's the whole point of this verse, to understand. Therefore, both matter and spirit meaning all the spirit souls, act only by the will and sanction of the Lord. And that is the point of this verse. So maybe what can help is if we were to take apart the verse, like word by word, you know. So Vasudeva, his point is the dependence of prana and matter on the Lord's will. Okay. So let's look at the words. Prana itself, the pranadinam, of prana and the others, of all the other vital forces that govern animation and life. That represents this word, this prana, that's what it represents. Then you have Vishwasrijam, of the creators of the universe. So creators can refer to, you know, say like people, but generally here in this context is referring to the building blocks, the things that create the universe, the elements that build it out. See, creators of the universe. So that is called Vishwasrijam. Srijam means the creation. Then we talk about Shaktya Ya Parasya. That's the potencies. Now this word, it basically establishes the energetic and the energy. The identity of the source of the energies, the potencies, is Krishna. And Paratantriyat means that it underscores the utter dependence on the Lord himself, the person, Krishna. And that's the vital point, that all powers are dependent on the Lord. Vaishadrishyat. This is important to understand that matter and spirit are distinct and they're different, like water and oil. Yes, you can say both liquid or something, but they're distinct, they're ontologically different. But they're both dependent. And that's an important philosophical concept that needs to be established. Of course, you know, when we're coming from a devotional school of thought, and we've heard these a million times, it's not a big deal. It's like, yeah, it's so obvious. But when we're out in the world where there are philosophies that are so, sound similar, but they have different conclusions, that's where these subtle differences, these different areas that are being emphasized of the words, they come into play. Most of us will not enter into debates with monists or impersonalists typically and get into this level of hair splitting. But if ever you're faced with it, at least you feel a sense of confidence that the Bhagavatam addresses philosophically everything very clearly. And then the last one, activity through the Lord's will, cheshta eva cheshtatam, that the activities are not independently sentient. The fact that things move, the fact that we can act and activity can manifest itself is again the Lord's will playing through them. Or the Lord's at least sanction. The Lord sanctions it, he allows it, he facilitates activity. So everything is dependent on Krishna. Basically, that's the whole point of this verse. The building blocks, the prana, the vital life forces, matter and spirit. And then when matter and spirit come together, things happen, people do stuff, activity takes place, everything, all those elements, including the activity, is fully, thoroughly dependent on Lord Sri Krishna. So the profound assertion here is that the Lord is a singular conscious orchestrator. Is the original cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. Yeah. So this is just like a word for word. So now let's explore a little bit more. In many schools of thought, this concept of prana is considered the highest principle because it's more subtle than air or fire. But this verse, it kind of demotes that idea. Yes, prana is subtle, but subtle does not mean supreme. Because there's something more subtle. The most subtle of all is Paramatma, the indwelling Lord in the heart, who empowers prana itself. See, a fan spins due to electricity, but the electricity starts flowing only when someone switches it on. So the real activator is the person, not the mechanism. So similarly, prana spins, but only by the Lord's sanction. See? So we're talking about now dependent activation, that even the most potent energies need a coordinator, need a conscious unifier. And here in the purport, they reference Srila Prabhupada's another purport in the second canto. Is very, very beautifully elaborated. That the elements were inert until activated by the Lord's impulse. So the Lord is required for everything to happen. Yeah. The Lord's impulse is what activates it. And in the purport in the second canto, 2.532, Prabhupada very beautifully says, let's pay special attention. He says, every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being. And by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to his sons, the individual living beings are given little freedom to act according to their will, to lord it over the material nature. Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing the material field under the control of the maid servant of the Lord, that is nature. They accept the Maya or the maid servant as all in all, and thus wrongly conceive the supreme truth to be the feminine goddess Durga and so on. The foolish, childlike materialist cannot reach beyond the conception of the maidservant, material nature. But the intelligent grown-up sons of the Lord know well that all the acts of material nature are controlled by the Lord. Just as a maidservant is under the control of the master, the father of the undeveloped children. Okay, so that's the dependent activation, as Prabhupada highlights. And this third point is that both spirit and matter are subordinate. Now, what is the importance of this third point? This point balances, this verse balances two misconceptions. And it's misconception on two extremes of the spectrum of understanding. One idea is that matter alone creates life. That's the materialistic idea, materialism. That's modern scientists. Certain atoms came together, create molecules. Certain molecules came together, were activated by some energy from some sun, but there was no life before that. And matter alone then sparked, and we have life. That's one idea. It's one misconception. And then the other philosophical misconception is that soul alone is independently powerful. Aham Brahmasmi. So this is the monism or impersonalism. There is no higher God. This is soul is everything. It's all one soul, and I am part of that soul. I'm just one. All souls are one, actually. And there's only the soul alone is independently powerful. I am that soul. It's just that I don't realize it yet. This is another misconception. You see. But Lord Sri Krishna is the master of both the categories, Prakriti and Purusha. The material nature and the spirit soul. He is the Adi Purusha. He's the original Purusha. He's the master Purusha. Yeah. So that's an important distinction. Now, let's explore the roles of these divine energies. Okay. This is all the things that are covered in the verse and in the purport. That all Shakti means the energies of the Lord, the potencies. All the energies, there's external energy, which is Bahiranga, internal energy, Antaranga, and the marginal energy, Tatastha. So Tatastha is us, the living soul. All these energies act by his will, under his sanction. Even the jiva means the spirit soul, the individual soul, even our ability to desire, our ability to move, our ability to think is granted and maintained by the Lord. And that's important. And how does the Lord do it? He does it in the form of Paramatma. So we have the role of Paramatma. Paramatma is the expansion of the Lord in our hearts. Every living entity has Paramatma in the heart. And in this verse, it's mentioned that the Paramatma plays the role of Upadrashta Numanta. He is the overseer and permitter. So that's how the Lord, he silently sits in the heart, he oversees, and he permits. And without the sanction of the Lord, no movement, material or spiritual, is possible. Remember, this is all core to Vasudeva's prayer to the Lord here. We're just kind of taking it apart, word by word. Okay, so that's the connection to the Bhagavad Gita verse. Upadrashta Anumanta. He is the overseer, he is a permitter. Now, what are some practical realizations that we can take home from this rather abstract discussion? What should strengthen in our hearts is this idea that we have to give up this false independence. Now, often, even as devotees, we may subtly believe, I am doing this. I accomplished it. It is my intelligence, really. It's my creativity. We may not say it like that outside, but we may think it. We know it's kind of obnoxious, but we may think it. This is key to cultivating genuine humility. We cannot be thinking along those lines, just because of me. I am kind of better than others. No. This verse reminds us that even cheshta, activity, is only cheshtatam, because of his will. It's activity, and it's active only because of his will and sanction. That's the word in the verse. Cheshta, cheshtatam. This is one of the keys to cultivate genuine humility, that anything I've accomplished that is of positive value to the world, it is only because of the Lord sanctioning, him giving inspiration. And when he withdraws that energy, I'm done for. And it happens. So let me be humble. Maybe I'm super smart now, but later on in life, maybe, some degradation of the brain cells happens. Very typical. We get dementia and so on. It's a real thing. We don't know when the Lord will withdraw his energies in our life. Every little thing we do is depending on him. So then, another practical thing we could do or reflect on is that our sadhana meaning our chanting, our bowing down to the Lord, our reading, it should deepen from routine to reliance. Reliance meaning, my Lord, I rely on you for everything. A conscious remembrance, my Lord, even my breathing is your mercy. My Lord, even my memory, speech, and realizations, they are from you. And if you withdraw them, if you choose to withdraw them, I'm helpless. So a conscious remembrance of our reliance, moving from a routine approach, will be the difference between advancing and not being progressive and just kind of stagnating. Now, how can we apply this? We can apply when we do our chanting. So like chanting is such a key aspect. Prabhupada said this 16 rounds, it's like 90% of your growth is going to depend on this. So we offer each mantra as a surrender of the false ego. My Lord, I'm not the doer. Please accept me as your servant. The translation, engage me in your service. But how can you want to engage you in the service if my mood is not right? If I don't have humility, you won't be inclined. So my Lord, please engage me in your service and help me correct my mood also. At least let me realize I'm not the doer. That's in chanting. In our service, so we're doing some practical service. Some devotees are constantly doing practical service. Their hands are always moving. They grabs the needle, put it through the flower, pulls it through the other side, even while listening to class. Adi Purush Prabhu is looking up. Wait, are you talking about me? Yes, we are. Whatever service we perform, it is his Shakti flowing through us. I can see Adi Purush Prabhu as the needle is going through the flower. He's saying this is Shakti of the Lord flowing through me, just like this needle flows through the flower. This is called active, conscious service. And then we pray also between things, seek the mood of bhakti yoga, the willing cooperation with the supreme doer. He's the doer. My Lord, you are the one who did these things. You give me the credit, but I don't deserve it. So the final reflections, that everything, even the subtlest life energies, are activated and sustained by the Supreme Lord. I mean, even the ability for us to turn away from the Lord, the Lord grants us that, perhaps reluctantly, but he does it. He sanctions it. And the mechanisms by which we can even commit sins, he sanctions those as well. Because that's what we want. And depending on his will, he'll grant it. If we throw enough of a tantrum, he does it. And so Prabhupada said, the father gives the immature children these things to play with. But we can reflect that everything, even the subtlest of life energies, are activated, sustained by the Lord. There is no independent cause in the universe, nothing. Bhagavan Sri Krishna only is the original source original controller, and the original enjoyer. Okay. And when we realize this leads to coming to the bhakti platform, true bhakti, where we no longer act for our ego, but for his will and pleasure. And that platform, that state of flow is so liberating, because we are no longer encumbered by the false notion that I'm the one who's in charge of stuff, and that weight of that false responsibility that is incredibly liberating. So what can we meditate on? We can meditate. We embrace the journey of self-discovery and connection to the Lord as we remember the source of our existence, and we move forward with courage. And March 4th. My breath, my thoughts, my limbs, they are yours, my Lord. Let me use them in your service, remembering you as a source behind all. The sweetness that comes from looking upon your beautiful face. The joy that comes from hearing your names being sung. Let that flow through my heart, while recognizing that you are supremely independent and I am eternally dependent. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. That this is a Vedic aphorism that explains existence of living entities. It says, Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam. Among all the eternal beings, there are two categories, only two. In one category, there are many, many members. In the other category of eternal beings, there's only one member. That member is special. Eko, that one member, bahunam, of the many, vidadhati kaman, that one special eternal being fulfills the desires of the many. This is an ontological, foundational understanding. You might have heard this hundreds of times if you hear Prabhupada's lectures, if you hear devotees' lectures. Nityo nityanam, chetanas chetananam, eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. So my Lord, let me recognize, understand that. Let me understand your special position. Let me understand the special position of those who are your people. And then let me really work with this understanding that my breath, my thought, my limbs, they are yours. And I am yours, Krishna. Let me use all this in your service, and not only make me happy, it'll make you happy, it'll make Prabhupada happy, it'll make devotees happy, it'll make the world happy. It'll even make the atheists happy, they just won't know why they're happy. See? Because I've changed the vibe of my environment. And remembering you as the source behind all. And this is the essence of the prayer of Vasudeva to Lord Krishna in today's verse. So what is our action item? You know, at the end of any meeting, you have an action item. Look at what are we going to do? Right? So this is our meeting. Our action item, our call to action, is join the progressive devotees in deepening our understanding of the Supreme Lord and recognizing his will in our daily actions. Stay connected with good association for more insights and improved spiritual perspective. And then let us confidently and boldly march forth, constantly marching. You know, we're always marching. Krishna says, everybody's on my path in all respects. But we have to march. You don't want to stand on that path. You want to march forth. You don't want to march backwards. Because Krishna says there's people who are on my path, but they're going the other direction, away from. But everybody's on that path. So we want to march forth to Krishna on our journey. If you look at your calendar, today is March 4th, by the way. So it's a good day to march forth toward Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all very much for listening. I hope it was useful, and I think we have a few minutes for discussion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. I'm so glad you said Krishna, I'm yours. I was waiting for it. And you finally said it. Jai. Dear devotees, please, it's your turn to shine. Adipurusha Prabhu is going to shine.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Prabhupada.
I don't think we can hear him, though. Maybe it's just me.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, we can hear.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Wonderful class, wonderful subject. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, Krishna is so funny. It's amazing how he does this. There's a lot of information here in the words of praise that Vasudeva is offering. And anyone with a little bit of intelligence, for anyone with a little bit of intelligence, the creation draws our attention to the Creator. The wonder of, the ability to speak, the ability to see, the ability to think. It's all given by Krishna. And then, Prabhu, you really brought it home when you made that prayer. Lord, what should I do with this? How can I please you? Because the goal of all the knowledge, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that the person who realizes how wonderful is Krishna, hey, let me serve Krishna, right? Let me appreciate him, glorify him, and then give myself to activity for his pleasure. And then Krishna reveals himself more, the ever increasing. Wonderful class, wonderful subject matter about, how Krishna's got his finger in every pie. He's there, and he's calling us. Rabbi Gilman used to say, in everyone's heart, there's this resounding voice, the Lord saying, come back, come back. He's calling out to us. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Adipurusha Prabhu. Anyone else want to share that?
John Bhavan, please come close to the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wonderful observation in class by Adi and yourselves. Just a quick, just touch upon things. I've experimented with a lot of religions of the world. The Jehovah's, with the Krishnas and the Christians. Well, just to get to the point, in Krishna consciousness, or ISKCON, do we depend on other religions for progress? When you talk about energies and things, the energies of Krishna.
Do we depend on other what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Religions for just the greater success.
Do we depend on other religions? So other religions meaning other traditions of faith?
Yes, other faith for more progress for our faith. Is it necessary?
Okay, so let me see if I understand the question. Is it necessary to depend on other traditions of faith for making spiritual progress? There is only one message in all genuine traditions of faith. One message is God is great. Goal of life is to love God and serve God. That's pretty much the same message in all of them. If the exploration of other traditions enhances your or strengthens your understanding in the sense that, oh yeah, others are all doing it, this has to be right. If it strengthens your faith, then it's good. That I'm seeing the common thread among all traditions of spirituality, that God is great and we want to love him. If that's the conclusion and we end up strengthening that, then we can use it. But is it necessary? No, not at all. If you have come to that conclusion that God is great and servant eternally, and it'll make God happy if I serve him and I love him, then it's not necessary to go other places. It's kind of like saying, when you have a buffet, right? You go to like a world buffet and they have like foods from all different countries and all different things. But if you just put in your plate the balanced diet of the basic things you need for your body to function, you don't need, if there 200 items, you don't need to put 200 items on your plate. You just need to put what works for your body and what nourishes you. So similarly, this the nourishment of the soul, where we connect deeply with God, that nourishment comes from observing some of these principles, whether it's come from a Western tradition, Eastern tradition, Northern tradition, doesn't matter. So as long as you get a nutrition, nourishment, it's not necessary to sample every single thing in the buffet. You see, that's my point. Now, if you look at the ancient world, when this Bhagavatam was written, at that time, a lot of these, what we call religion and traditions in today's world, they weren't even in existence. Traditions, what we call Christianity today, was not there. 5,000 years ago, there was no Christianity, there was no Islam, there's no Buddhism also, so everything was Krishna consciousness. But there were other philosophies, even at that time. Some philosophies that are saying that matter is the cause of everything, or there's only one spirit and there's no higher God as such. So these confusions are also those are the different variations of misconceptions that need to be addressed. So it's not necessary to explore other traditions. You can put yourself in the shoes 5,000 years ago. What are you going to explore? You see, there's really only one conclusion. There's one God, and we serve Him. So I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna. We have quite a few hands up. We have Jamuna Jaya followed by Gail. So Jamuna Jaya.
Hare Krishna, Madana-gopāla. Thank you so much for class. It's such a beautiful way of making things that could be really technical so accessible. To this point about March 4th and making progress, it made me think of something, and then your just answer to this last question, something that I've heard my Guru Dave said the other day. He said, without the knowledge of truth, our march forward can be diverted in so many ways. Without having the Shastra, without having Sadhu, without having Guru, without having the truth as the compass, we can think we're marching forward, but we may be diverted in a lot of different ways. So I just wanted to comment on that because you made me recall that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes, thank you so much. Without having the proper knowledge and understanding and guidance, we can be marching in the wrong direction. Like we'll put full force and energy marching, okay, time to march, but you point in the wrong direction. Even if it's a few degrees off, you will end up in a different town than the place you're aiming for. That's why you need constant correction. There's a nice analogy that, when there's a flight going from, say, New Delhi to New York, many, many hours, right? It's like a 14-hour flight. 30% of the time, this is a flight path, right, that the plane's supposed to fly. 30% of the time, the plane is not on that flight path because of winds or some other thing. It's either veered off this way or that way. But because the pilot is conscious of flight path, if you veer a little bit, he constantly keep bringing it back. They keep bringing it back. So the direction is very important. Otherwise, if you just and just keep moving that direction, you'll end up somewhere else. So, because in the world, the winds are there and they can push us this way or that way. It's important to have constant guidance. It's important for us to check our books, make sure our longitude, latitude is in line with our flight path on a daily basis, on a regular basis. We should not be lazy in understanding the philosophical concepts, thinking, it's just philosophy. We just need to do service. Well, why does it need to understand Siddhanta? Siddhanta means the conclusive truths. No, we do. In fact, it's so important. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says a very famous word. He says, Siddhanta boliye chitte na karo alash. Iha hoite Krishna mane, Krishna lage shuddrida manash. That on the Siddhanta, increasing your strength in Siddhantic understanding, don't be lazy. Na karo alash. Don't be lazy in studying and understanding philosophical concepts. And then he says, these concepts will strengthen your faith in Krishna. It'll ensure you're moving in the right direction. So that's why your point is very well taken. That's why we even have these discussions on a daily basis to make sure every morning we're aligned correctly. So then when we march forth for that day in our services, in our activities, that we are oriented correctly. And then our energies are not misapplied and they don't take us away from our goal. So it's a good point. Hare Krishna. Gail Mataji, your hand is up.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, just a couple of quick comments on these last two conversations. You said that, a lot of people think that, why do I need to learn Siddhanta? Service should be enough. But I feel like that thinking is missing the fact that learning Siddhanta and hearing is also service. Service is not just, like physical activity. What we're doing now is also service. So that was one kind of comment. And the other one was in relationship to that question that was asked, does this bhakti yoga that we're doing, does it rely on other religions? It reminded me of that principle that we often hear, that bhakti is independent. So I think that principle kind of also answers that question. Hare Krishna.
Yes, bhakti is independent. But this understanding the Siddhanta is part of bhakti. Sometimes people think this is not bhakti, this is jnana, what you're engaging in, reading. How much you're going to read, right? So that's important. Thank you. Okay, Min.
Let her go. Yeah.
Thank you so much for class. I really appreciate how you presented the philosophy and then gave us instructions for practical ways to apply it. One of the things that you said was how Prabhupada said 90% of our practice, or I can't remember exactly how you put it, but it was regarding the chanting, just putting heavy importance on japa meditation. And when you mentioned that God is the sole enjoyer, I remember coming to Krishna consciousness at the very beginning, hearing that, and I didn't have a huge problem with it, but it made me really uncomfortable. I didn't understand it.
Sorry, say your question again. Can you say that again? The question.
That Krishna is the sole enjoyer.
Yes.
And that made me really feel uncomfortable. I never heard that before. And, reading the text and studying teachers now have a good understanding of why and how. I'm just trying to, can you tell us how the process of chanting, if it does relate to somehow understanding this abstract philosophy and wisdom?
Process of chanting?
Yes.
Yes, and how it contributes to understanding. The chanting process does many things. And what it actually does is given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave many instructions when he spoke to his disciples and his followers in lectures and, in just conversations, really. He himself didn't write many books. In fact, he only wrote 8 verses with his hands. So those are key. And the opening verse of that Shikshashtakam that he wrote says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. That this chanting process cleanses the mirror of the heart or the mind. You see, what that means is that he didn't say it cleanses the window of the heart. You see, it's interesting. Darpana means mirror. Because when you chant, our mirror is actually covered by a lot of misconceptions. And so when we look at it, we see a twisted version of who we are. We don't see ourselves properly. It's just covered in mud. You don't even see ourselves. We don't know who we actually are. But the chanting process kind of scrapes away that mud and cleanses it. And then we say, oh my God, this is who I am. And then when you align that with what we learn in the Krishna conscious philosophy, then it clicks. Otherwise, it'll not click. You'll not get a realization. The chanting process is what cleanses the heart. So when you look in the mirror, realize, I'm a pure, effulgent soul. I'm not this dull lumps of matter. You know? Right? Luminous beings are we, not these lumps of matter. That's the line from Yoda, you know, in Star Wars. He actually said that. Look it up. Luminous beings are we, not this lumps of matter. You know. So when we chant, we see the mirror. Die. Okay, we'll have to take darshan. We come back after. Hare Krishna.
Back to Madana-gopāla Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you very much for that wonderful darshan. It's most uplifting first thing in the morning like this. So we were discussing on the effect of chanting on the heart. So when we get clarity and we can see in the mirror who we are, then we'll be able to understand all the various conclusions of the scriptures. We'll understand what are these secrets. The nature of say Bhagavad Gita is that it's confidential. It's not confidential because only a few people can open the book and it's only, you need certain passwords to go on the website. It's not confidential like that. The book is available to everybody. It's open source. But to understand the conclusion of it, it requires a key. The key is the devotional practice. Krishna says in the Gita itself, Bhaktya mama bijanati. You will only know me in truth if you practice bhakti. And the most key, essential practice of bhakti is the chanting process. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to highlight that one point. And so you have experienced it yourself, Min, and other devotees have too, that simply by chanting, any attempt after having chanted sincerely, any attempt at understanding the point that Krishna is making will be very fruitful compared to, say, without having chanted. You see, so chanting has that magic of clearing. It's kind of like you cleanse the lens of the microscope. It's a big difference, with the dirty microscope or clean microscope is a whole different conclusion. So you can only understand when you chant. Of course, besides that, cleaning of the heart, so many other things come from chanting, right? And things Jeffrey Ackler very kindly put that Shikshashtakam link on the chat, so you can read that first verse and how it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. Is a life of all transcendental knowledge. You see that point? It is a life. Vidya vadhu jivanam is the life of transcendental knowledge. So the knowledge is just words in a book, but it becomes alive when you chant. That is the actual life of that knowledge, you see. And so this verse answers directly your question. How does the chanting relate to my understanding of all those books in the library behind you? The chant will unlock them. It's quite a collection, by the way, very impressive, of a collection of transcendental books. So definitely chant and read those books. Okay. You have anything to say, Min?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's really helpful to you distinguish that that it's not said that we don't hear a window of our mind, it's the mirror of our mind. And that makes a lot more sense. We're trying to get this clear, 100% clear at some point of a reflection of, and I've heard the Shikshashtakam prayer and I've read it many times, but some things just go over my head. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
Oh, Shiksha, thank you. Yeah, Shikshashtakam is very deep. Like you see, even just each word has so much depth in it. So every verse in Shikshashtakam, we can spend about, say, 8 hours per verse. And each verse, say 8 hours of just analysis, and it's not going to be enough. because there's so much in there, you know, there's so much nectar in there. So yes, thank you. There's another question in the chat that's I'd like to address. Is anonymous. My mother passed away this week in a hospital after a botched surgery and painful complications. There is some self-blame in the family whether we should have allowed her into surgery in the first place, and some disappointment with the doctors too. I understand when you say that our life force is given and withdrawn by Krishna alone. I also understand that all credit for anything we do right goes to Krishna. But how about blame in situations like these? It seems wrong to think that Krishna willed her suffering before she passed away. My faith is a bit shaken this week. So first of all, please accept my heartfelt condolences. I'm so sorry to hear of your mother's passing. I can only imagine the pain your family is going through. And I pray that Supreme Lord gives you the strength, clarity, and comfort in this difficult time. Your question is not only sincere, but deeply, it's very important. And it's one that many of us wrestle with when loss and sorrow come untimely, unexpectedly. So let me firstly say that it's completely natural that your faith feels shaken. Faith is not the absence of grief, confusion, or questioning. Faith is what holds us when we are face to face with them. You're absolutely right in saying that the jiva, the individual soul, enters and leaves the body by the will of Krishna. But your question touches on something tender, the pain, and whether Krishna truly willed that suffering. In the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they remind us that suffering in this world doesn't always have a simple, a linear explanation. Yes, karma plays a role. It is not Krishna's cruelty. It's the soul's own past choices unfolding in this lifetime or another. Yet even this is not the whole picture, by the way. Krishna is not indifferent to our pain. He is known as Bhakta Vatsala. You know, he's affectionate to his devotees. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. He's the well-wishing friend of all living beings, right? So sometimes what appears as a painful end in Krishna's loving plan may be an act of compassion, perhaps releasing a soul from a heavier future suffering, or even giving her a final purification so she may draw closer to him the next stage of her journey. It's hard for us to see these things. Now, as for the surgery and the family's decisions, we should try not to carry the burden of blame. You acted out of love. The family members acted out of love. No one can predict the outcomes of medical treatment. Krishna sees the intention in the heart, not just the result. So the feeling of guilt is natural in grief. But we should know, please know that you are not the cause, nor are the doctors. You're instruments in trying to do your best under Krishna's guidance. Even Arjuna had to face loss and confusion, even after being directly guided by Krishna. The path of bhakti doesn't promise a pain-free life, but it promises that no pain is ever meaningless. Every soul's journey is lovingly guided by Krishna. Even when we can't see the full map, we may not have the visibility, but we can have faith that Krishna is guiding our soul's journey in a bigger picture. So if it helps, offer prayers to Krishna for your mother's onward journey. Chant his names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You chant his names and remember her with love. That can bring peace to your heart, both to you and to her soul and to family members. So thank you for reaching out with your heart. It's not easy, but you're not alone. You have Krishna. Krishna is not very far, and other devotees also with you. So I pray that may the Lord bless her soul, and may the Lord give you and your family strength in this difficult time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. Yeah, let's all say a prayer for the mother of the devotee who asked the question. And yeah, the best prayer is Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prayers work. Krishna is real, and he's right there, especially when we need him. Especially when we need him. Gail, is that hand from before?
Oh, this is a new one. It's the other hand.
New hand, yeah.
Prabhu, you're always so funny. Yeah. Well, I had a question, but I just want to say, wow, that was such a beautiful line when you said, and correct me if I'm not quoting you properly. You said faith is not the absence of grief or sorrow; it's what holds us together during those times. Where, I don't remember exactly how you put it, but it was such a great line. Yeah, I do have a question though. Going back to your conversation with Min, can you kind of elaborate on what's the difference between seeing the mind as the mirror and the mind as a window?
Yes. You see, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu writes these verses, he's very careful with the words he uses. It's an analogy. And so analogies have a functional, they have a purpose, right? They have a functional value. So the mirror is used to see oneself, to evaluate oneself, to see where things need to be corrected. Like we use our mirror, right? Like, I don't know if Gail Mata used the mirror much, because somehow you look amazing.
My house is a house of mirrors.
Year after year, you look so effulgent and young. Like, what are you doing? So you probably don't use the mirror, but some of us do. And the point of the mirror is to see ourselves for who we are. And when we see ourselves for who we are, then we'll act on that platform properly. It's important for us to see ourselves before we can do anything. The window is also not a bad analogy, but the thing is, the science of self-realization, the science of self-realization. See? So first we realize ourselves, who we are. Numero uno. It's very important. Think of number one. And then we realize, focusing on ourselves is not a bad thing. Being selfish is a bad thing when you're using selfishness for a materialistic sense gratification kind of thing. But focusing on the self is not a bad thing, because the self is pure. The self is aligned with Krishna. And if we understand the self, then we will know what is best for us. Prahlad Maharaj teaches, Na te vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. That people don't know, materialists don't know that their the true self-benefit, swartha, is Vishnu. People don't know that. But when you understand what the self is, then you will realize.
Oh, can you repeat that line involving Vishnu again, please?
Yeah. Na te vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. Swartha means self, or say self-profit, or what is good for me. Now, generally, the word swartha means selfishness in most contexts. But and that's usually in negative connotation. But Prahlad uses it in a positive connotation. That people don't know that the real selfishness, the real self-interest is Vishnu. People don't know that. You see. So being swarthi, being self-interested, is not a bad thing. But it's only bad if you don't know what is actually in your interest.
So when you say it's Vishnu who's in our interest,
yes,
we really mean is serving Vishnu that's in our interest.
Yes. Gati means our goal. Our goal is Vishnu. See, our goal means to be with him, to serve him, to enter into relationship with him, to associate with him, so on.
So the reason why Mahaprabhu uses this word mirror is because, it, you know, we have to understand who we are first, because it is only by understanding who we are that we can then know how to approach the rest of the world. Right? I mean, if we think of ourselves, if we misidentify ourselves, right, then we will not approach the world properly. So it all begins with having a proper sense of identity.
Yeah, yeah. We can only take a first step when we know who we are. After that, that's why it's the opening line. Cheto, darpana, the very second word is mirror. Darpana means mirror. Cheto means the chit, means the consciousness or the subtle body or the mind, the heart. So he's already giving the analogy right off the bat. Cheto darpana marjanam. Marjanam means to cleanse, you see? So it's right off the bat. That's the point of Mahaprabhu.
Can you give me my laptop for my work?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess too, if he had used the word window instead, you know, it would take the focus from the self to what is external to the self. No?
Sorry.
Because when we look out the window, right?
Yes.
We are looking away from the self. We're looking to externals.
Yeah.
But the idea is for introspection, not
That's
like
right.
extrospection.
That's correct. Yeah. First, understand who you are. That's why Krishna, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, he focuses so much on understanding the soul, explaining the soul, right? Everything else then makes sense. Otherwise, things won't make sense if you don't understand the soul. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. We can only take bubble bath or any other self-care act if we're connected to Krishna. Wherever we are, then we can engage in self-care. That's my takeaway. And also, and my other takeaway is that next time I'm tempted to do something that's not good for me and for my Krishna consciousness, I'll try to recite Shikshashtakam and see if that selfish desire goes away. I'll report back next time. I mean, when I tempted to smoke a cigarette or watch the news, or what are the other deadly sins for devotees? Yeah, maybe coming late for class. Bhima Prabhu. Okay, Bhima Prabhu, you turned on your camera. What was that for? You showing off your farm, or you wanted to glorify Krishna?
All I know is when I look in that marginum, that mirror, I start swinging. Sometimes we think the fight is ours. You know, sometimes we think that the fight is ours, that somehow we're going to make ourselves better. And we always have to strive in that way. But when we realize that Krishna is, as Maharaj says here, as Madana-gopāla has said, Krishna's, you know, he's there in every instance, even being itself, the fact that anything at all exists is Krishna. So we have to kind of, I'm learning, you kind of have to hand it over to Krishna, even our purification. And when you do, of course, hand it over, as Madana-gopāla said, there's no guarantee that's going to be a happy trails. It might be an adventure, and it might be very punishing. You know, very wake you up. You know, you fool around and find out is what the saying is. Fool around and find out. And if your only problems is whether you're going to watch the news or not, then Prabhu, I wish I had your problems.
Quick tip, don't watch the news today. It's pretty bad. So.
Yeah, like Raghunath Prabhu says, nobody feels good after watching that thing. You're tempted, you want it, your mind is craving it, but who feels good after watching that? Right? Jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. Wonderful class, wonderful afterglow, wonderful devotees. We love you. We need you. Thank you so much for being with us.